Hello there, everybody. This is Mel Allen. In the beginning, there was baseball, and the games were finally underway. First and foremost, opening day, as a new season hits the road and the world champions from the Big Apple taste the early fruits of victory. Curtain up in the Queen City, where, in keeping with tradition, a streamlined machine has an inaugural ball, cranking out a smashing debut. A premier season that turned the baseball world around, honoring a man whose start was an inspiration and whose courage has been firmly rooted in the game. Get a handle on the first servings of big league beginnings. With so much happening, it's easy to get lost. But with a little hustle, we think you'll catch on. So open yourself to a new edition of This Week in Baseball. Entering our second decade.
I love This Week in Baseball because I love to see the credits. They're outstanding.
Up first, the Princes of the City, the world champion New York Mets. Reflections on an opening day afternoon at Shea Stadium, where a sellout crowd gathered to get the 1987 season on the road. With a trunk full of memories, Mets fans were still savoring the taste of the title.
Here we go.
Let the era continue.
Let the era continue. You got it.
With a little sunshine breaking through at Shea, the festivities got underway, ringing in the new year for the champions and those who adore them. The new lords of the diamond enjoyed a jewel of a 1986 season, and they could certainly be excused for waving their own flag one more time. With the ceremonies completed, the Mets and Pirates squared off for the opener. Baseball was back, and soon Darryl Strawberry drove the point home. A three-run blast in the first inning by Strawberry was a sweet way to start a title defense. And off to a good start of his own, left-hander Bob Ojeda, pitching a season opener for the first time since Little League. Ojeda had what he needed to work 7 innings, yielding only 1 run. But by the 9th inning, the gods of Flushing were starting to rumble. Jesse Orozco was on in relief with the bases loaded. This was now a 3-2 ball game, and the Bucks were still charging. But when it comes to close late inning situations, Davy Johnson's crew always seems to know what to do. Only 162 days since their Game 7 victory, the Mets had that familiar winning look. On to the city of Cincinnati, where opening days have been taking place for 118 seasons, an occasion that calls for rolling out the Reds carpet.
Cincinnati Reds opening day.
It's a very traditional day here in Cincinnati, and I remember when I was a kid growing up that if you had a ticket for opening day, you got out of the school that day. And we have 4 guys in our lineup today that are raised right here in Cincinnati. Larkin, Buddy Bell, Ronnie Oster, and Dave Parker. So there's a lot of tradition in our lineup today.
And apparently a lot of hits as the revved-up Reds took on the Montreal Expos. Leading the way, Eric Davis, much talked about and much delivering. When Davis homered in the bottom of the second, Montreal was leading 4-1. 2 innings later, he reached first on a walk and then was on the run. Up next, catcher Bo Diaz, who did what it took to bring his man home. Davis's second run cut the lead to 2, and soon Terry Francona cut loose.
In right field, way back, Webster. Ball's gone. High game on Francona's home run.
But things were just warming up. Shortstop Barry Larkin slammed a home run, and the Reds were still rolling on in the 4th.
The Cincinnati Reds have unloaded, and they've now scored 7 runs.
The Reds would go on to 9 runs, the most ever given up by the Expos in an inning. A comfortable situation for reliever John Franco, who took care of business in wrapping up an 11-5 Cincinnati win. The next game, a 7-2 victory for the Reds, charging out of the gate. Next, a look at this week's Twib Notes. So let's roll out some 87 firsts. And first, a hello to Chub Feeney, former National League president, who threw out the first ball in San Francisco. Less prestigious, Tom Candiotti, who delivered the first Gopher ball of the year. And that set up the much-anticipated first high five, waiting for Lloyd Moseby at home. Next, the first homer that wasn't.
Puckett may not have room. He makes a great catch.
And the first pitcher to soap up in the shower, Tom Browning of the Reds, who had less fun on opening day than Jose Cruz taking the first curtain call of the '87 campaign. Mariano Duncan got the season's first ejection after protesting Harry Wendelstedt's ball strike selection. The first player missing in action, going, gone, Steve Buechele. And say goodbye to the first rocket shot of the year, thanks to Larry Herndon.
Here's one hit a mile in center field, way back, and gone!
And how about number one in the dirty uniform category, John T-Bone Shelby? Anything but bone dry. And the first new uniform on display, Atlanta's, modeled by Rick Mahler, who tossed '87's premier shutout against the Philadelphia Phillies.
Oberkfell to second, one hovering on to first, and Rick Mahler's done it. For the third time, Rick Mahler has pitched an opening day shutout.
Los Angeles' Mike Ramsey was the first non-roster player to make the Dodgers' opening day lineup since Jim Lefevre in 1965. And the first hit of his career helped produce the new season's first mantelpiece memento. Another item saved. Good old Steve Buechele, none the worse for his head-over-heels adventure. And last, Giant Will Clark, who homered on the first swing of his first at-bat in the major leagues on opening day of '86. While this year, Clark's debut wasn't quite so dramatic, he did go 3 for 6 with a triple. And you guessed it, it was the Giants' first three-bagger. And now it's time for this week's quiz, brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevy trucks. Since coming to New York in 1985, Gary Carter has enjoyed some heart-beating moments of his own. The first came in his Mets debut. Bottom of the 10th inning on opening day, and a game-winning homer puts New York in a frenzy. It was the 6th opening day homer of Carter's career, second most in National League history. 2 Hall of Famers share the record with 7. Can you name them? Now, folks, a new feature in which we review what was new over our past decade, called That Week in Baseball. Opening day in Toronto. In honor of the summer game, some folks dressed for the occasion, the first game of the Blue Jays franchise. And first baseman Doug Ault did his best to warm up the house.
Brett deals. Hard hit ball. Power alley. Left center field. Home run. Doug Ault hits the first homer in Blue Jay history and will score the first run.
In 1978, on an opening day in Cincinnati, the Reds were not into the swing of things. Strike 3 on the batter, and 2 Reds caught off base by a heads-up Astros infield. Without making contact, the Reds ran their way into 3 quick outs. A year later in Houston, the Astros again enjoyed an auspicious start thanks to Ken Forsch, who delivered a second game of the season no-hitter against the Atlanta Braves. Accomplished on April 7th, it was at the time the earliest no-hitter ever. In 1981, first-day Dodger fans got a Mexican-style thrill as a rookie pitcher named Fernando took the L.A. Hill.
Valenzuela delivers, through ball, got him swinging. What a way to start. Fernando Valenzuela, in his first big league start, pitches a shutout.
When it comes to opening day starts, Tom Seaver has been the king of the Hill. In 1985, Tom Terrific made his 15th, overtaking the big train Walter Johnson. And last year got off to a roaring start in Detroit thanks to Dwight Evans. The first game played by anybody in '86. This was the first pitch.
Long drive, left center field. Way back, left center, and gone.
Opening day 1986 also delivered some wallops at the Kingdome in Seattle. Jim Presley batted in the bottom of the 9th with the Mariners trailing the California Angels 4-2. but this blast tied it all up. The fireworks were far from done. An inning later, the bases were loaded, and Presley was ready to rock again.
And the 1-2 pitch on the way to Jimmy, swung on, well hit ball deep to left field. Back she goes, goodbye baseball. Grand slam, home run, Jimmy Presley, and the Mariners beat the California Angels. Wow, what a night for Jimmy Presley and the Mariners.
Opening day sure can amaze. Certainly the case for that week in baseball. The thrills of opening day are always preceded by 6 weeks of hard work at spring training. Now, big league life isn't as glamorous as many think, but it probably beats whatever these guys were doing for their first jobs.
I was a paper boy when I was 9 years old, and my father made me stay a paper boy till I was about 17.
But the goal was, instead of throwing it on a porch, to get it in the hoop of the basket from the street, see if you could get it in the basket. So most of them ended up on the roof.
Going door to door selling greeting cards.
Metro 500 gas station, pumping gas, baby.
My first paying job was picking raspberries.
I picked tomatoes and then moved up to sorting the tomatoes in the canneries.
Yeah, you pick night crawlers and you sell them by the quart. Sell them to the bait store.
I was selling rose bushes for Bargain City for 19 cents a piece.
Freight elevator operator in Cleveland, Ohio at Higbee's department store. I used to go in the back. It was cold sometime in the wintertime too, brother, and I was running that freight elevator up and down, and had a nice girl there too. That's why I like to go to work, so it wasn't the money that was involved.
Washing dishes in a luncheonette. I worked in a McDonald's.
Paid for all my prom stuff through working through Kentucky Fried Chicken, and
worked at an Orange Julius. Worked at a Der Wiener Schnitzel when I was in high school. That was kind of fun, but it got to grow on you after a while.
I worked for a portable sanitation company, and I moved portable toilets around and cleaned them.
I farmed. I drove a tractor for 3 days, and we got fired.
So I made $800 my first year in baseball. But I thought the guy was crazy. I couldn't believe that after playing for nothing for 19 years that this guy's going to give me money to play baseball.
How about that, man? You know, it almost beats getting paid for announcing. Now, let's check out the answer to this week's quiz. Eddie Matthews of the Braves and the Giants' Willie Mays hold the National League record of 7 opening day homers. For Mays, it's not really amazing. He had 660 round trips in his great 22-year career. And Eddie Matthews, no surprise either. He belted 512 homers in 18 seasons, 7 on opening days. Mays and Matthews, an April shower of power.
If it weren't for Jackie Robinson, then Joe Carter would not be here today. The things that he went through, the things he suffered for the minority ball players of Major League Baseball, I mean, was tremendous.
When he unified baseball as far as blacks coming into the game, that was a major step for us, and I think for the United States.
I don't think the black players should only take their hat off to him. I think everyone should, because he was what our country's all about.
Talking about Jackie Robinson, the subject of a flashback to 1947. Opening day, April 15th, 1947, at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, New York. Facing the Dodgers was Johnny Sain of the Boston Braves. Sain shared in history by pitching to Jackie Robinson as he became baseball's first black player of the modern era. In a turbulent and climactic day, Robinson went 0-for-3 with a run, but it was a key day in the history of the integration of baseball.
In 1947, a player, in many ways, the most significant player the game has ever had, named Jackie Robinson, came to baseball.
If the right man and ability on the field and with control of himself off the field, if I could find that kind of a man, the American public would accept him.
Of course, I made the Jackie Robinson decision. Hell, if it hadn't been for me, he wouldn't have played.
I was happy just to be on the same team with him, knowing what a great competitor and what a great player that he was.
We became great friends. I love the guy. He was one of the greatest athletes I ever saw. I played tennis with him, golf with him. He was a great football player, basketball player, and not too bad of a baseball player.
I knew that this was bigger than any one individual, and I would have to do whatever I possibly could to control myself.
Throughout the first half of this century, blacks were relegated to the Negro Leagues. It was the time of Jim Crow and segregation. But in 1945, Jackie Robinson was signed by Branch Rickey of the Brooklyn Dodgers and dispatched to Montreal, the Dodgers' top farm team. Robinson had been a football hero at UCLA and one of the finest athletes in the school's history. Baseball Commissioner Happy Chandler knew that Brooklyn wanted to bring Robinson to the major leagues. Chandler's predecessor had been Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who had stood firmly in support of the status quo, reflecting the harsh realities of his time.
For 24 years, Landis wouldn't let him play. 24 years. If you're black, you're automatically disqualified. In 1947, at a meeting at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, and I presided over the meeting, the owners anticipated that Rickey might want to bring Robinson from Montreal to Brooklyn, so they debated and discussed for 2 hours the Jackie Robinson situation expressly. And then they took a vote. They voted 15-1 not to let him play. As soon as that meeting was over, Rickey called me, and first thing he said to me was, "Commissioner, hey, you could get him in there as quick as Branch Rickey. All he had was the player. But with the adverse vote of his partners, 15-1, what chance you think he had to break the color line?" And I said to him simply after we discussed it, "I'm going to have to meet my maker someday, and if he asks me why I didn't let this boy play, and I say it's because he's black, it might not be a satisfactory answer." I had seen these black boys offering to fight and die for the freedom of the country, and then when he came back home, they were told he couldn't play the national game. I just didn't think it was fair, and I didn't think it was just and decent. And I told Rickey, I said, "Bring him on in and we'll make the fight."
When Branch Rickey signed Jackie Robinson to a Brooklyn Dodgers contract in 1947, it was more than a sports story. It was the beginning of a new and necessary era in American social history. Yes, Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color line, and it was the start of a difficult time.
They passed a petition around, about 4 of the players passed a petition around for us to sign that we would not play on the same team with Jackie. I said there was no way that I would sign that because this man is an idol of mine, and I said I don't see any reason why he shouldn't play in the big leagues, and nobody signed it, and the guys that passed the petition around were traded soon after that.
In the face of prejudice, Robinson never yielded, and he soon impressed enemies and teammates alike with a style that was dedicated solely to winning.
Once he got the chance, he improved himself. He became a very thrilling base runner. He became a real good clutch hitter. So they really picked the right man to pioneer for the first black in the major leagues.
I knew that I was going to be somewhat out in front, and perhaps I would have to take a lot of abuse. I remember Mr. Rickey saying to me that I couldn't fight back, and I wondered whether or not I was going to be able to do this. I knew that this was bigger than any one individual, and I would have to do whatever I possibly could to control myself.
If any man ever showed determination under pressure, it was Robinson. He not only won the Rookie of the Year award in '47, but gained respect every step of the way.
My main ambition was to get along well enough with who I was playing with so that they would realize that there wasn't any friction because I was color and they were white. I mean, we could play together. I think that was my main ambition, was to break down that barrier, not so much for me to go to the major leagues. I just wanted somebody to go. I didn't care who it was.
Nothing symbolized Robinson's courage and daring more than his base running. Clearly, this was a man who could take risks and deliver.
Robinson waits. Here comes the pitch. And there goes a line drive to left field. Swan is after it. He leaps it over his head against the wall. Here comes Gilliam scoring. Brooklyn wins. Jackie Robinson is being pummeled by his teammates.
Being the first in anything is never easy, but what Jackie went through was unprecedented. Baseball had become the flashpoint of change, and for the man in the middle, it helped to have friends.
He would get letters saying, "We will kill you," or "You will be shot," or something like that. He would show me the letter, and it didn't seem to bother him. So I would say, "Hey, Jackie," or if we were warming up, I would be standing next to him. I'd say, "Hey, would you move over a little bit? Get away from me." I said, "This guy may be a bad shot." Well, he he'd just laugh about it.
Pee Wee being from the South and Jack having lived through a great deal of racial discrimination, and certainly it was important for Jack to have a teammate that he could trust, that he could rely on, that would be supportive to him as he would support Pee Wee. And the sort of mutual work that they did on that, I think, is a tribute to both men.
Brooklyn got its tribute in 1955 as the Dodgers won their first World Series. It had taken 8 years, but now the Dodgers were both world champions and integrated. More and more blacks were making it to the big leagues, and each of them knew what he owed to Robinson, not just for what Robbie did on the field, but for everything his courage and sacrifice set in motion.
I felt that it was finally the elimination of one of the bigger challenges that most Americans had to face. I felt real good as an American, much more so than as being the first Negro in organized baseball.
Jackie Robinson, ball player, gentleman, and true American hero. Now for opening day 1987, Major League Baseball is honoring Jackie Robinson by painting his number on every second base and every ballpark throughout the major leagues. 40 years later, Jackie Robinson's memory lives on. That's all for now, folks. See you next week on This Week in Baseball.